Well, Sting, welcome to the show. When you were talking about the start of this whole venture, what did you actually have in mind?
Largely what I've got now. Musicians who are adept enough to play almost any style of music you ask them to, because that fits in with my vision of what music is. I see music as a totality as opposed to little sectarian bits, you know, like country music or rock and roll or blues or jazz. I see the whole thing and I want to play the whole thing. So these musicians have allowed me to realize that dream of playing just about anything, and our show runs the gamut from cabaret to, you know, I don't know what.
Well, I mean, within this, in the program itself, so it virtually can't be a misquote. Right. You're worried with putting these musicians together that you wanted, that you may, in some circles, be looked at as a racist.
I have been criticised by certain individuals saying things like I'd tainted the purity of black music. I think that's correct. My answer to that is that the South African government uses similar arguments to defend apartheid. In other words, what these people are saying is absolute bullshit, and I will not even discuss the matter with them. That's racism. I think music belongs to everyone, regardless of your colour. And you know, if we think of music forms as being pure and holy and not allowed to be touched, then they die. My whole thing about pop music being dead, I keep being quoted on this. If pop music continues just to borrow from itself, from its own history, then of course it will die. It's at its most lively and it's most effective when it's borrowing from other sources. When it borrows from folk music or classic or jazz or blues, that's when it becomes lively. As soon as you start making pop records that are just like pop records that were made 6 months ago or 6 years ago, it doesn't go anywhere, and that's my beef.
With a song like We Work the Black Seam, which is basically an English song dealing with English problems, the coal miners, the whole plight of what the coal miners gone through. Was it hard for them to understand the lyrics? Did you have to explain to them what this big fight was in England?
I was very clear that I didn't want musicians who just played their instruments, just played the right notes. I wanted them to address the issues I was writing about in their playing. And to a certain extent, I had to explain what these songs were about. And having done that, it was very easy. They're not just songs that rhyme. They are about specific issues, and so I demanded that they address those issues, and they were very pleased to do that. Yeah, I mean, they're glad of being stretched in a way that they haven't been stretched before. The musicians really like that. When you take them out of a position where they're comfortable and you put them somewhere where they're slightly uncomfortable, and then they become expert at that. That's very satisfying. It's good for me too. I'm learning from them, and they're learning from me, hopefully.
The black seam together. We work the black seam together. The seam lies underground. 3 million years of pressure packed it down.
I've always seen you very serious more than anything else. You seem far more relaxed now and a lot happier. And quoting Trudy, she said that the moment you started with this band, that you in fact had become a different person.
I think it's been a very good year for me in every sense, both musically, socially, in my personal life. And that's obviously reflected in how relaxed I am. You know, I think 7 years as a member of the police in that sort of meteoric rise that we had was very difficult. And I think we all became sort of casualties of that success and the pressure. God, the pressure. But it's a cliche, but it's a real one. You know, you do change. And I was just glad to have a breath of fresh air after all of that.
All right, let's take a song like Russians, a beautiful song, and yet a very a totally serious song. I mean, you have a habit of disguising your songs that can sound, even your love songs can sound like, oh wow, a really happy love song, and then you really listen to the lyrics and it's quite almost the opposite way, you know?
I like that idea. I like ambiguity in songs. The song that can be seductive and yet sinister at the same time. I think it adds to the richness of the song. It's not just one idea, it's two joined into one.
Right, being English and me being Australian, there's always been that scare for a long, long time in my upbringing that the Russians were the evil ones, that they were a different mob, they almost could have been from a different planet that were threatening you. Did you ever have that thought when you were a child? Or that teaching that perhaps they're supposed to be evil?
I think I'm open to the same conditioning as everyone else, you know, and through the media, through the way our entertainment is thrown at us. You know, I think a film like Rambo, Red Dawn, all these Chuck Norris movies where the bad guy is the evil, robotic communist, and you just have to blow him away with a machine gun to solve the world's problems, aren't terribly useful. You know, we do have the ability to destroy half the world if we want to, of the whole thing. And I think that kind of mentality is a very dangerous one, and we have to get rid of it. We have to think about people with a right to live on the planet, regardless of what they believe or the way they live.